Hello, this is Paul T coming at you again. And the question that I'm asking is, are prescription medications killing us? And can we trust big pharma? I am citing an article that came out recently by Kaylee Brown of Collective Evolution on December 31st, 2018. And she cited a research study by Harvard University dated June 27th of 2014 by Donald W. Light. And Donald W. Light, he cites prescription drugs as, quote, a major health risk, ranking fourth with stroke as a leading cause of death. And he goes on to say that, quote, new prescription drugs have a 1 in 5 chance of causing serious reactions after they have been approved. And here is a chart from his article entitled New Drugs from 2002 to 2011. As we have seen with the opioid epidemic, which was in the news recently, big pharma now seems to be a legalized drug pusher, right? They're legal drugs, but they still may be killing or causing a lot of discomfort and problems for a lot of people who take the prescription medications. Now, there is this idea of an iron triangle. Now, this was a book. This is based from a book written by Hedrick Smith called The Power Game. And it documents something called an iron triangle with the defense industry during the Reagan years. And basically, politicians are funded, their campaigns are funded by political action committees, and these political action committees legally are able to get millions of dollars funneled into them for these campaigns. And so the politicians become beholden to the political action committees who were given money by major industries. And The Power Game by Hedrick Smith, it pretty much documents the defense industry. But nowadays, it's pretty much any industry that generates billions of dollars. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry is a huge industry now, and lots of money. And there's another study too that showed that the return on investment of giving money to political action committees to get your political candidates in office has a higher return on investment than just about anything else. So there you go. Donald W. Light also goes on to say, in response to drug disasters like Vioxx, which experts say caused about 120,000 traumatic cardiovascular events and 40,000 deaths, Congress and the FDA have set up monitoring and safety systems, but a review of results so far found little evidence that they are identifying serious risks or altering prescribing practices, unquote. And this is 2004. And I don't think things have gotten better, unfortunately. So why and how is this happening? And it's because big pharma is a gatekeeper of most of the research that is done into the safety and side effects of prescription drugs. Obviously, they have their own research departments, and they also fund university research departments. And there is, the research and development pipeline for new drugs. But there is also a little-known secondary R&D pipeline for new drugs under development. It's called the Trial Journal Pipeline. And here's Donald W. Light. He says it consists of randomized clinical trials designed with the marketing departments to produce evidence that their drugs are more effective and safer than unbiased trials would show. Commercially funded clinical trials are at least 2.5 times more likely to favor the sponsor's drug than non-commercially funded trials. So obviously 2.5 times and that was an unquote. But obviously, at least 2.5 times more likely is a statistically significant difference. So the pharmaceutical companies are chasing profits by gaming the system, and part of that system has to do with Medicare, because the reason, and people don't seem to understand why healthcare costs are rising. But if you have a government like Medicare, which is designed with a good purpose and a good motive to it, and it does help a lot of people. But if Medicare just absentmindedly or whatever intentionally pays these high windfall profits to the pharmaceutical industries, and so the pharmaceutical industry can keep jacking up rates, because if Medicare pays for it, then the consumer is not out of pocket anything. It's free to the consumer. So the consumer says, fine, bring it on. Give me some more medication because it's free, even though it may be killing you um, unknowingly. But as long as the consumer doesn't feel the cost, they think that there is no cost. But unfortunately, eventually, the taxpayers will be paying for it. And guess why we have $21 trillion in debt? It's almost $22 trillion in debt. Where is all that money going? Right? Like, it doesn't really make sense unless there is something wrong with the system, which obviously there is. And the healthcare costs are going up, and it's going into someone's pocket. So, and it's not going into, the average taxpayer. It's going into the pockets of somebody. So figure it out. So Donald W. Light goes on to say, quote, closely coordinated in the trial journal pipeline, pharmaceutical companies retain teams of statisticians, science editors, and science writers to select which results will go into the medical literature and which will not, unquote. And he also goes on to say, the FDA accepts these biased trials and uses them to approve drugs. Congress strongly supports having companies fund the division that reviews new drugs rather than having the FDA be a publicly funded independent reviewer and regulator. Financially, the FDA is an extension of the pharmaceutical industry and plays a major role in expanding markets for more people to take more drugs, unquote. So if you thought the FDA is working for you, I mean, in many respects, the FDA does a good job, right? We all trust the foods that we eat, and I think generally they do a good job. But if the FDA has been captured because of the nature of our political system, and it's sort of distressing. Okay, so things need to change. And then when you look at the personal level, doctors might be well-meaning, so the doctor that you see, but doctors are unable to access all of the pertinent data. So whether they can even read or research the clinical studies, I mean, they should be able to, but having access to it, finding it, could also, it could be difficult. I actually think a good doctor would do that, but a lot of doctors do not. And here's Kaylee Brown, quote, it's often illegal for MDs to prescribe natural cures instead of pharmaceutical drugs and conventional treatments, particularly when it comes to the cancer industry. Okay, so if doctors happen to know of alternative cures that work, they are not allowed to prescribe them by law. So that's one of the ways that I think the pharmaceutical industry protects itself. And again, they would need to have the cooperation of lawmakers. Okay, so And unfortunately, some doctors may have been captured by the system. Here's Kaylee Brown again, quote, approximately 1.9 million people are hospitalized annually due to properly prescribed medications. That's properly, not including any overdoses, self-prescriptions, or misprescribing. 128,000 people die every year in the United States from drugs prescribed to them. The reality is, drug companies make a lot of money from selling prescriptions, and they even pay doctors to do that, to do it for them. And so, if you didn't know that, your doctor may actually be getting a kickback, because that's what it is, from a pharmaceutical company for prescribing a certain drug to you. And that's unfortunate. So, again, some doctors may actually be making a lot of money off of it. If you want to know if your doctor is making money from prescribing you a particular prescription medication, you can go to something called the Open Payments Data.cms.gov website, and it will allow you to search payments made by drug and medical device companies to physicians and teaching hospitals. Okay, so you can see how much your doctor is making off of prescribing you medication, if any. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. They may prescribe you that same medication. They may have done the work and the research. But I'm just saying that there is potential corruption even at the local level with your local doctor. Okay, so take a look at that, and hopefully this helped you to understand a little more about the shape of our world, because there are many tricky things about this world. But that's it for now. Hopefully you subscribe and keep tuning in, but I'll be covering a lot of different topics, and I should be ramping up my different video posts. Thanks. Bye-bye.